Sports reports, no gimmicks, no clowns. 2-5, Mr. Logical, we run this town. Real talk only, no chasing, no doubt. From the east to the west, it's the order we shout. Mic check, lights flash, game time, stay ready. 2 vets in the zone, keep the pressure real heavy. Big hits, big plays, yeah, we breaking it down. Truth rings in your speakers, every word is the crown. From the north side hustle to that southern flame. Midwest grind, west coast of the game. Sports talk kings, yeah, we wear that crown. Turn it up, let them know it's about to go down. Sports reports, no gimmicks, no clowns. 2-5, Mr. Logical, we run this town. Real talk only, no chaser, no doubt. From the east to the west, it's the order we shout.
It's about to go down.
Yes. Happy Friday out there. Let's get this weekend started. You are now listening to the sounds of Sports Reports Disorder. Those sounds are brought to you by the one and only world-famous, world-renowned Super Nick fan. He goes by the name of Mr. Logical. Jersey is in the house.
Absolutely.
And then down here in the Alamo, it's your unorthodox statistician going left so much you thought I was southpaw. I go by the name of 2-5. We got a lot to get to tonight. More trades, trade rumors, NBA draft reaction, and much, much more. So let's take it from the top. Mr. Logical.
Yeah.
So I was sitting here, right? NBA draft ended. I admit, a little more lackluster than I thought it would be.
I don't know why you thought it was going to be luster at all.
You know what I'm saying? and then you know what Shams did before they closed up shop? Shams let it off.
The Woj bomb.
Yeah, he hit it off just like. That's what he did. And it was like, oh, LaMelo Ball is on the trade block. So then I woke up the next morning, and probably before I could even brush my teeth, everybody was going crazy about this trade. So I was like, all right, let's see what they got. And then when I saw what Minnesota gave up, I just went. So I was sitting there, and I was just like, hold on now. All right, so LaMelo Ball, Mr. Logical, and Josh Green to Minnesota for Naz Reid, a 2023 first-round pick, first-round swaps in 2028 through 2030, and then second-rounders in 29, 32, and 33. Reaction, sir.
They gave up a bunch of nothing because they're a team that just likes to suffer. You had probably one of the most remarkable post New Year's Eve basketball stories, short of the Knicks. If you think about like that Knicks final run, it was like what the Knicks did in the finals. If you think about maybe the fall of the Pacers and like how bad they were in the last half of the season, but the way that the Hornets played. Okay, we just use the line demarcations January 1 to the end of the season. It's like they were top 3 or 4 in the league.
Mm-hmm.
Win, loss, efficiency, all these other stats. Rookie, what most people argue would be the rookie of the year, led the league in 3-point shots. I just feel like they had something really going that was worth paying LaMelo the extension on top of the extension he already has. Because you already have, I think it was like 3 years, 130 left on his current one. They probably would have negotiated for another 2 years, 100. So you got him 5 years, 230, which is a bargain considering, I think, Chet, Jay Will, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Jokic, probably Luka. Most of those guys are probably getting more than that over a 5-year span. So to have your guy who is the spark plug to your offense and pretty much your offensive personality, you just let him go for the 6th man of the year and a bunch of picks of guys who are currently 16, 14, 15, and 16 years old right now, if I'm doing the math, because my son is class of 2027 and he's 17 right now. So if you got a 2030 pick, was it 2030, 2031?
Yeah, so the swaps are 2028 through 2030, and then second rounders in 29, 32, and 33.
Okay, so you traded LaMelo Ball for the potential of 6 current teenagers. Like, let's keep it real. Like, let's really do the math here. Like, 6 teenagers right now between the ages of 15 to 17. 15 to 18. That's what you traded them for.
I've got something for you.
All right, let's hear it.
You know what I'm saying? This is a 2-5. So I was thinking about this earlier because I don't think the Hornets should have made this trade, but I knew you were gonna be on that side as well. So I kind of tried to just dig, right? Like there has to be something I can come up with, right? And then so I came up with 2 things. So the first thing, actually 3 things. So the first thing,
okay.
LaMelo in his career has only played more than 60 games twice. Now, granted, one of those was this year. You know what I mean? When they went to the play-in game, right? They played Miami. That was the game where he pulled on Bam's ankle. He scored 30 points, had 10 assists, 5 rebounds. But this is the crazy part, Mr. Logical. He went 12 for 31 in that game. He went 2 for 16 from 3 in that game. And then the next game, they lost by 30 to Orlando.
Okay.
But I got more.
Jaylen Brunson through 2 games in the NBA Finals, because you were updating me.
He was 30 of 82 or something like that. Oh, that was game right? 3. Yeah.
So he was like 21 of 61. That's the leniency you
right,
give
but that was the NBA
player.
Finals, though.
I'm just saying, shooting the shooting stat can be misleading. You can still be impactful, but I feel you.
So this was the other part, the bigger part of this. So the Hornets got all these future picks, and now we talk about the NBA draft reform. We talk about the aprons. So you got to kind of build your team with foresight in mind, right? Well, Mr. Logical. Next season, at the end of next season, Nikola Jokic is a free agent. Says Steph Curry is a free agent. Not that, and I mean, he's from there, right? Like he grew up there. Donovan Mitchell is a free agent. If Anthony Davis doesn't get maxed, he's a free agent. So maybe there's a bigger play involved here. Now, granted, so out of those names I just said, Jokic is the only one that really would factor into this type of decision. But the problem with Jokic is his player option at the end of next year is 62.8. He's probably cashing that in. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that's what I came up with. But back to this. So, Minnesota, right? I was thinking about this.
Real quick. But that's why you got to come up with something, because it doesn't make any sense.
So right?
That's always my argument. Like I debate with people, argue with people all the time, and I'm real. Like I said, I'm a logical thinker. So if you're talking to me logically, your conversation back and forth will make sense to both people. It won't need any caveats. Like I had a friend of mine. Shout out to my boy Carl Dixon. He said his mom used to tell him this. Listen, son, it's the truth. You can't add anything to it. You can't take anything from it. The truth of the matter is this was a bad trade by a team and a style of self-sabotage that many NBA teams seem to exhibit every single offseason. We talk about it all the time. Like these teams get themselves in a position of where We got to this level of the mountain. We'll use that as the analogy. Yes, everybody doesn't get to the mountain the first time. You and I talk about all the time. We lived in Utah. There's been plenty of times I wanted to go for a hike and realize, like, hey, you know what? Maybe 7,000 feet is enough. Let's go ahead and hit this tree, turn back around, come back down. Next time I might get the 8,500. But I don't just stop going hiking.
All right, so I just thought of one more thing. All right, so of course, like the way that I look at this is back to your original point. You know, saying you run it back this year after what you accomplished this year and see if it was a fluke or not. You know, saying maybe you can get a top 6. You know, you talked about how you don't have big expectations for Miami right now.
No.
You know, Philly and their health. You know, what's going on with Jaylen Brown? What's Boston going to look like next year? You know, James Harden ain't taking a team anywhere. So, like, you start to look around. And not saying that the Hornets could make a finals run or anything like that. But, you know what I mean? But you could probably get into that top 5-ish conversation maybe.
If you're sitting in that room, you can honestly say, hey, I think we're more likely to be 4 or 5 than Miami at this point than Cleveland. I think you can be confident. If you're an intern in that room, you can stand up and say, hey, I think we'll finish ahead of Orlando, Cleveland, and Miami this year in the East, which are 2 really good teams that, you know, that middle rung team. I think you can confidently stand up based on what you had at the end of last year, going into next year. You can say, I think we can get the 5 and be at 5 comfortably all year long. If you're in the Charlotte board meetings, team meetings, player development meetings, whatever level of meeting you're in. But I don't think they can say that now.
So the other part of this, you know, that just dawned on me, you know, I was thinking, so they just drafted Christian Anderson, you know, who I think is the best shooter in the draft. They just drafted Heinz Steinbach that led the nation in rebounding last year. But, you know, you got Brandon Miller probably coming up, you know, for his rookie extension. You know, you got to have some money down the road for Khan. You got these guys, these 2 guys that I just mentioned on rookie contracts starting out. They just paid Kobe White 3 years, $74 million.
But that was after the trade.
No, I know, but that was probably a part of the plan, though. Like if you
wouldn't need Kobe White if you already had LaMelo,
right? But Kobe White is more, I guess, reliable is the word as far as like playing, like knowing that he's going to play a lot of these games. So from that standpoint, it's if I can
playing one-on-one NBA 2K tonight. Are you taking Kobe White against me if I'm playing with LaMelo Ball? No,
I might. He's a really good shooter, but anyway, but no,
6'8" dynamic.
No, but that's what I was going to get to. So with Minnesota, I think people are looking at this as, oh, we're about to get this offensive explosion between Ant and LaMelo, and I tell y'all caution on that because all I see is bad shots, bad IQ. You know, at the end of the game, a whole lot of erraticness. And, you know, but then on top of that, Minnesota, by losing a guy like Naz Reid, I feel like they've lost some of their identity. Like, you remember back in the day when the Celtics made the big deal, like, oh, we traded Kendrick Perkins. And it was like, nah, get out of here. But Naz Reid was the heart of that team. The city loves him. You know, like you said, he was a 6th man of the year. They already traded Randall. So now free agency starts on Tuesday, but now you're starting free agency very thin at the 4, unless Jaden McDaniels is going to be that 4. So from that standpoint,
unless you get a traditional 4,
unless you do
traditional 4, I think everyone's kind of enamored with the stretch 4, but every team has one.
Well, that's the thing.
Has a stretch 4, and how many of them would you consider perennial all-stars? It's not just because they can do that. So if I got LaMelo and Ant, I'll get me a regular Luke Cornett kind of 4. I use him as an example because he's the most recent guy.
Well, that would be fine if OKC and San Antonio weren't trying to build the biggest teams on earth Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Well,
so you got to.
you're not going to be able to beat them out in 1 year when OKC built their team by not being bad, but they were just not a really good team for a handful of years, 3, 4, 5 years. And then they made correct decisions and they got the bodies in and these bodies developed. Same thing with San Antonio. We talked about it. This is Wemby's 3rd year. The first 2, I think they won 60 games combined, if my math is correct. That's not even included with him on the floor, but I think overall as a season, I think they had a couple of 30-something in 50 years or something like that. So they built the team, but they drafted big guys. Minnesota's not going to be able to compete with that, but it's like, you know what? If we can go firepower and support power, like we can get the planes that can drop the biggest bombs and then maybe some really good helicopters, maybe we can win this out.
Yeah, so they're taking a gamble that, because we've been talking about this for the last couple of weeks, is Jaden McDaniels going to be able to keep up what we saw in the playoffs? Was that the beginning of the new Jaden Daniels, or was that just matchup dependent? You know, then of course, you know,
you make him your 6th man?
No, because you need his defense. You know, he's the best defender on the roster, so you're going to need – that's not named Gobert, so you're going to need him on the roster. Now, I was wondering if there was maybe a Gobert move in the cards, but I don't think so for this year. That might come later. Then you got Terrence Shannon that you're going to try to get some minutes for. You know, maybe you'll flip Josh Green and try to get something else. You know, but they needed this. They needed the point guard. You know, there were talks about, hey, are they going to get Ja? Or are they going to get Kyrie? They did one better. They got a younger guy that's more athletic at this point. Well, maybe not more athletic than Ja, but with the height involved, you know, it becomes an advantage. So if you could get Melo to just make an effort on defense, then Minnesota's still sitting there pretty nicely, because we still got to see what the Lakers are going to do. You know, they paid Austin Reeves. We'll get to that in a little bit. But from reports, they haven't even offered LeBron a contract yet. So that's that. What is Houston going to do? There's a whole lot of mess going on there and a whole lot of talk around them. So maybe Minnesota is not that off right now. You know what I mean? They just need to shore up the 4. Like I was telling you about Miami. Like, I don't want to overreact yet.
I think they're in a better position as a team.
Right, yeah, because they got those 2. Yeah.
But I don't think that's like I think
I don't know. I like where Charlotte is though.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd rather have LaMelo, but I like where Charlotte is.
So I think with Minnesota having LaMelo and Ant, and something I heard earlier today, a pundit was like, you know, Ant's not really a playmaker where LaMelo is. I'm like, okay, I get the idea of how it could work. Like you said, the roster has to fill out. I like the firepower and the star power that Minnesota has over Charlotte. I think the Minnesota star power wins you games 109, 104, 109, 105, just because you have guys like LaMelo and Ant that can just get a bucket, guys that can just get you 32 points, guys that have the green light. Whereas Knippel getting doubled, now that LaMelo's not on the floor, it's going to be quite tough. He's a big guy, not known as a great ball handler.
But that's what I like it. That's what I like, because Brandon Miller's a shooter. Kobe White's a shooter. You got Christian Anderson, like I said, best shooter in the draft. So even if
I'm gonna wait until about Christmas before I make any determination on the rookies, because the rookies Grant Hill, when he played in college, when he got to the NBA, it was comparable. The bumping, the pushing, the size, the athleticism. He was the arc of like this new wave of player. These current players coming in the draft now are not more dynamic than the guys currently in the league. I mean, like, I don't think there's a guy in the draft that if you put him at the top of the key 1-on-1 and he's got to guard Donovan Mitchell, I don't think any of them really have a shot. Maybe AJ because of the length, but I think the current NBA players are just a couple of notches above. I think there's a couple of notches above the current, because I think a lot of these guys, a lot of guys came in undersized, a lot of guys under 190 pounds. So if you got a guy listed at the draft,
but that's the thing. These are 18, 19-year-olds.
None of them are 20.
They'll fill out
a little older, but that's what I mean. That's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. So I wouldn't put a lot of credence into rookies making impact. Con Knipple did because Con Knipple's 6'7". He's a huge dude, so he could take the bump, he could take the push, and still get the shot off. I'm not sure if like a guy like was it Kingston Flemings or something like that.
Yeah,
he's a slim guy, you know. So like I wouldn't put a lot of credence into the rookies. As far as the trade goes, if it was about injuries and money, then you shouldn't have given him an extension initially, because the injuries have always been the problem. So I just feel that I think they looked at an opportunity to reset. Maybe they looked at the Knicks, the Celtics, the Sixers, and felt like these guys are going to be kind of locked into that level of play for the next couple of seasons. Because you imagine the Knicks are probably going to play as well as they did in the regular season. The playoffs were an anomaly. Going 16-3 in the playoffs. 16-3 in the playoffs with that many wins is like, you can't be like, oh, I think they're going to do that again. But I think 53 to 56 wins in the regular season, you probably can bank on. Probably bank on 50 plus for Celtics. Healthy Philly, 50 plus, maybe closer to 60 for one of those three teams. So if you're Charlotte, you're like, you know what? Let's see what we can build. So when those guys got to start paying players and cutting players, now we got Khan in gear 3 or 4, and he's ready to go. And I understand that maybe LaMelo Ball is not part of that plan, but I think this is a preemptive positioning to be ready the 2028 tip-off.
Yeah, that's why I think that they could have ran it back this year, you know, and then maybe at the end of next season, you know, depending on how that finishes up.
Well,
maybe you make that
run
move.
It this year, they can take their lumps. Like
that's what,
these guys,
and that's what I'm saying. But next year you can make a decision.
50,
not saying
this year.
Yeah, not saying automatically trade him after the season, but now you got like we had 2026. Look at the way we finished the season strong, even though the play-in ended how it ended. But then now we have a full season of what should be our best basketball. You know, we went and got some good players in the draft. We getting some free agents in, whatever the changeover is. Now let's put it together and see where we land. That's where I think I would have been. You know what I mean? But as far as Minnesota goes, this isn't abnormal for them, you know, because they went out and made the crazy. They were the beginning of all of this with the crazy Gobert trade with all the picks. And then, you know, they made the Cat for Randall trade. So Minnesota every now and again does these swings. And you know what I mean? And
they got impatient with the Gobert trade. I think another year with Cat without the Julius Randle deal would have worked out for them.
And now that's why I'm interested, right? Because Micah Nori, the guy that took over in Portland, was basically, from what I understand, he was their offensive coordinator, basically. So, you know, so let's see what that looks like. Minnesota has changed their identity, you know, for the most part. Charlotte has changed their viewership. They just
being on the East Coast is probably their best bet.
Well, you know, Charlotte's going to be that team that makes the playoffs at, say,
Miami.
They're going to be like, say, 47-35. And then people are going to come in and be like, Charlotte ain't got no chance because they weren't paying attention because LaMelo wasn't there. You know what I mean? I think they'll still be good.
45 would be the GM or whoever tabled this offer.
Yeah.
And whoever signed off on it. They are praying for 47-35.
Well, I mean, think about it, right?
Because that is, I don't want to say justification, but that is like, see, we told you we are ready for the 55-27 in the 2020.
Well, we're starting out, right?
2028 season, yeah.
Well, we're starting out in their division. You know, Atlanta's probably the best team as of right now. You know, just going off of the past season's result. You know, Atlanta's probably the best team. You know, Orlando is probably, I'm thinking, as of right now, because obviously free agent will be this week, but Orlando's taking a step back. You know what I mean? Washington's still trying to climb.
Just because of the new coach? Or just
no.
I just in the playoffs?
I just don't like their roster at all. Like, you know, I think they like the draft. And I'll talk about
be calling people because I think they have pieces. They have pieces that can get you. They have, I think, Wagner and a few draft picks could have got Naz Reid from Minnesota to Orlando.
Yeah, I think Jalen Suggs could still retrieve something. Like maybe not as much value as he had last season, but the defense that he brings, I think at that position, I think is enough to get something back. It might not be, and they don't need a superstar. Like when we were talking to Rez the other night, and that's why I hate when people say like, "Who are you going to get better?"
Than
and it's like nobody. Like, you know what I mean? Like, who am I going to get better than Giannis? Nobody. But if I can get, say, hypothetically, this don't make any sense, but I'm just trying to make a point. But if I can get Austin Reeves and J-Dub, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that probably still ain't better than Giannis, but I got versatility now.
Yeah, I feel like versatility and having options, yeah.
Right. You know what I mean?
But the NBA is weird. It's a matter of, we talk about how talented these guys are, you know, from spots 1 through 15. So if you're Minnesota and you feel like, hey, I got a couple of guys in here that, you know, been in the system for a couple of years, maybe they could step up. Maybe even if you're Charlotte. Problem with Charlotte and teams like that is like they have so much changeover at these vital positions. They have changeover in the front office, head coaching, or they had changeover at their star. Like who's a star, who's going to get paid. It always seems as if some of these, I know the small market, big market, I don't really like to make that argument, but it seems like the small market teams seem to have a little bit more of a tighter purse than the bigger teams. It's like, yo, I'm pretty sure you guys are getting the same type of money. So I just feel like they're more likely to come off their guy because if you look at the market, like Minnesota's 13 and Charlotte is 18, but it's not, you know, it's not that drastic of a difference. And I just feel like the opportunity to run it back this year was there. There was a lot of momentum.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're concerned that maybe LaMelo was going to want an extension, like he's sitting on 3 years, 130 right now. He's probably one of your most popular players, probably one of the most popular players in the NBA. So I doubt that he's hurting for money to the point where, or even if he's greedy, I don't even know if they would have given him an opportunity to do the Jaylen Brunson. Like to not even think about the extension during the season. Like, yo, let's play this out. Because we got, like, together with LaMelo Ball and the momentum that they had carried over from the 25-26 season, fourth was, I would say, like, close to a lock. And third was really on the table.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you talk about Atlanta, but Atlanta's probably going to make a lot of moves because of the way that they had the Knicks, and they probably gonna make some moves.
They have to make a decision on Kuminga. So you know, they did resign McCollum.
Yeah.
They brought in Aaron Wiggins, so that makes me think that Kuminga's gone.
Which just offers a lot of other positions. But yeah, I think Charlotte, if you're not whole, I'm not saying that they're like
right.
They're broken now. But the team that you ran it with last year, and you add, maybe you can still add Kobe White. Maybe you can still add a piece without the trade. But the haul that they got in return is probably like my biggest problem. It's like you just gave him up. I don't want to say for nothing because Naz Reid is an actual human player, but it's like you didn't trade apples for apples.
Yeah, but with this NBA, the last couple of years, we've seen that depth is what gets you home. You know, having the bench, like, you know, OKC won the title last year, Knicks this year, Spurs made the title, you know, the finals, the Pacers.
Keep playing your bench, San Antonio. You got tight. You went to like 7 guys out of nowhere. And then you were playing 9 to 10 guys, and then you went to 7.
But that's where I like the Naz Reid fit. You know what I mean? Because, you know, like they can spread it, man. You know what I mean? Like, I think right now he has to, I think, because I think they're going to probably get off of Miles Bridges. From what I was reading, it looks like the Lakers are interested, and there was another team that I can't think of right now. But
probably gonna try to follow LaMelo to Minnesota.
But
that's Shannon. Like him and Shannon play the same style.
Yeah. So like I think that he would have to, because you're not going to start Grant Williams probably.
I forgot he was still in the league.
Yeah, Jimmy Butler didn't. So, Mr. Logical, we talked about it briefly for a second. 4 years, 185. What we thinking?
I mean, it's less than he could have taken, so it's a little Brunson-esque.
Well, I think it's just by the year, right? I think he still got the max, but 4 years instead of 5.
4, so that's at was that?
Because I think it was 5,
40,
41,
42, 43. What am I thinking? What's the math on that? 43, 44, something like that. I imagine you could have got closer to 50. Unless I'm tripping.
46 and a quarter.
46.
Yeah.
So even at 46 is less than a lot of guys who got extensions. It's a lot of guys in the NBA getting 58 to 62 this year. So by that metrics, it's less than some of these other maxed out guys.
What is their level compared to him though?
It's different.
See, that's what I'm saying.
I think an SGA versus Austin Reeves is a little different. I'm gonna go back to something I heard Jeff Teague say about Larry Bird told him this. He was like, "I will never sign a player that played with LeBron because LeBron always makes them look better than they actually are." Well, the Lakers signed Austin Reeves. I'm assuming they're going to keep LeBron to ensure that Austin can kind of stay in that role that he has carved out for himself. I like the deal because it's like you had to make the deal just because you had to you couldn't lose him. You couldn't lose him and then risk a situation where it doesn't work out with LeBron and the numbers. And we there's rumors about the farewell tour of him going back to Cleveland and riding that wave out. And then it's Luka and a bunch of whomevers. Like it was when he was in Dallas, because now you're going to get the same shortcomings he had in Dallas that were not really his fault. Just you get outgunned. So I think they had to make that move. The Lakers one of those teams that they didn't build well. He's probably the only guy that they built. I can't imagine they're going to pay Rui any money. I think he might be up for something.
He's a free agent, yeah.
Yeah, so they just didn't do a great job of drafting and developing other than him. He's like the only guy.
You don't got to draft good when you could get Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, saying off the scrap heap.
Yeah, and then if he had to play games against dudes that don't jump, he'd be straight. But as soon as he had to defend something above the rim, it's a wrap. There's limitations to these things. I'm 5'8.5". I understand there's limitations to jumping and height and athleticism. The Lakers continue to do it. They continue to do the things that don't help their team win. And they will always do it. But they're the Lakers, and they're popular, and they're going to be able to get LeBron for one final year, Boston to dilly-dally with Jaylen Brown all year this year if they can't move him. And then
we'll talk about that here in a minute, too.
And maybe the Lakers swoop in and get him, and they get another star to sit next to their current star in Luka. So that's what the Lakers do, because the Lakers are just mismanaged because they don't have the right people in position. They don't have people in positions that can say no to what looks good. They got a lot of people who are star watchers.
So according to the tea leaves, the Lakers was getting some information, and it just made them because apparently they only wanted to offer Austin Reeves about 30, but then there were rumors that Detroit was creeping around. And that's why they went up to the number that they ended up at. Like you said, you can't lose them.
Herein lies my statement I just made 15 seconds ago.
Right.
Then you just say no and let them go.
And
if your basketball move and your money move, sorry to cut you off, was to only give him 30, and the rumor that he was going to go to Detroit, an Eastern Conference team that has to get through their whole gauntlet in the East Coast to get to you in the finals, if that's your goal, why do you care? If he was going to the Clippers, if the Golden State Warriors want him, if Phoenix was going to give him
and that's why it depends on what you
it.
believe. And that's why it depends on what you believe, because there were reports earlier in the month that was saying basically that's what Luka wants. Like Luka wants Austin Reeves. So if that's true, then I guess that's because you still got to sign Luka at some point too.
Luka don't want to take the ball out of his hand.
You know what I mean?
Got to get the ball to Austin Reeves. Now you're getting $44 million. So, I'm gonna call that cap.
So so now we'll have to see, because like I said, there's no offer to LeBron yet officially. There's been talk of the Lakers, and of course this is all rumor mill, right? So the Lakers would be willing to do a LeBron for Jared Allen swap, so that gives you that Cleveland farewell that you're talking about.
They really want Jared Allen. Like, you already got DeAndre Ayton.
Hey, remember I said that. Remember a couple of weeks ago I said that. Like, I was like, Jared Allen might end up on the Lakers next year because they're so desperate, but they don't necessarily have the money to go get the names that they want because the money that they're giving to LeBron, but we don't got to rehash that.
The Lakers need to call OKC and see what their assistant GM, their president of player personnel, the VP, what's the status of their contracts? Because that's what they need.
I know the previous one is in Washington.
They need an adult in the room. Rob Pelinka, these new people who own the team, the allure of the Lakers, all the banners and the trophies. I think it clouds people's logical decision making.
So what you're saying
Austin Reeves shouldn't have got. I wouldn't have given Austin Reeves that money just because somebody else. If I plan on giving him 40, bang, 4 years, 160. If that was my plan, go with it. But if your plan changed from 30 to 44 because you heard somebody else was going to give him, because Brooklyn was going to give him 42 or 45, then that's just silly mismanagement of assets.
So what you're saying is Rob Pelinka's only shooting 44% like Kobe.
Pelinka's fumbling answer. He has people who can give him the right answer. Kobe's just trying to shoot and score and win with Smush Parker and people from Gonzaga that the Lakers drafted for all these years, and Luke Walton.
So speaking of OKC, I mentioned that Aaron Wiggins is in Atlanta now. Today Detroit gets Isaiah Joe for 2 draft picks. So that was one of the things that Detroit was missing this year was Malik Beasley and Hardaway, because Hardaway went to Denver. Beasley obviously isn't in the league right now. So they were missing some of that outside shooting coming off the bench to help out a little bit. So here you are. Here's your stat, Mr. Logical. And I can't take credit for this one. This is from ESPN Research. So in the last 3 seasons, 56 players have taken 1,500 threes. Isaiah Joe has the highest percentage of those 56 players. And in this season alone, shot 42% from 3. So that right there just loosens things up a little bit. No, he just played bad once we got to the finals. Like he played all right, and then we got to the finals and just So so you got that going on. Also, Detroit, that wasn't all Detroit did. Detroit gave up beef stew for 2 draft picks, it sounds like, to Memphis. And look, you talk about bringing it back. Beef stew to Memphis out of all cities. Don't let Zebo nowhere near him because he don't need it.
Beef stew is like a super humble family man. He take those little farm family pictures in the sunflowers wearing overalls. The court beef stew is crazy. Isaiah, nothing like what the rumors about Memphis. I think that's just on court theatrics like Draymond Green.
And so I like that pickup for them. He didn't really offer Detroit much in the playoffs besides that one game against Orlando. I think he had 8 blocks or something like that. But I'd like this pickup from Memphis because he just sounds Memphis, right? Like you think of Memphis, the grit and grind, the grindhouse, the toughness, push you around. We're not going to take it. We're going to push you around and bully you. He fits perfect into that. So we'll see how that works.
That was Detroit too. Detroit has that same thing. Like I don't understand the move for Detroit. Unless money was due.
Well, I think Detroit is at a standpoint. So Detroit's got a couple of things going on that we'll get to. I guess we'll get to it now because I was going to bring it up. But you know, so they got to pay, theoretically, they got to pay Jaylen Brown, right? He's eligible for the max.
Would have probably moved.
Well, that's what I was going to bring up. You know, saying one of the latest shams was, could we see a Duren for Jaylen Brown? Now, I don't like that. I don't like Jaylen Brown in Detroit. Like him and Cade Cunningham just don't sound.
Nah, I mean, it just sounds the same as him and Jason Tatum.
It just sounds like
Brown, I don't think you lose anything by adding Jaylen Brown.
Yeah, so I was going to play.
If I was going to move Duren, I'm gonna keep Beef Stew. I think you probably could have moved maybe a sign and trade. But like I said, Jaylen Brown's getting so much money. I don't know if you can move that contract at all.
So here's some other Jaylen Brown things that I heard. I want you to tell me what you like the best. So there was the Jaylen Brown for Duren. Obviously, there would be probably a bunch of picks involved in that.
Yeah, I'm not really a big fan of it, but I think it would work.
There was Jaylen Brown for Mobley. I don't like that either.
Wait, hold on. Is James Harden coming back?
We'll see. It sounds like it from where the playoffs ended. When the playoffs ended, it sounded like it.
Back, then
that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, Harden,
Mitchell,
Brown doesn't make any sense.
All right. Okay. So then, New Orleans was another team that was being mentioned. You know, Trey Murphy and some other pieces. I could see that just from the standpoint. I don't like it per se, but I could see it because unless Zion's in the deal, I don't know who else would be in the deal, but theoretically he would be the leader of that team if he went to New Orleans. So I like it so I think he would like it, you know, from that standpoint of I'm the alpha, I'm the leader.
It's the West.
And it's Joe Dumars, too. You got to deal with him, too.
Yeah, it's a little tough.
All right. Then there was Atlanta. You know, I don't know what the pieces are there, but, you know, there was Atlanta, which might just be he's from there, so let's make up a rumor about it. But I don't think I would mind that so much because if he went to Atlanta, depending on what you give up, you know, they have the wing defenders around him, you know, whether it's Daniels, whether it's Nikhil, you know, SGA's cousin. So you know, they have parts that they just picked up Aaron Wiggins, so that could be your bench shooter to help things out. But so I think out of those, I like Atlanta the best, but I don't really like any of them. Like I think that I wouldn't be shocked if he got traded at the trade deadline, but I don't know if he's being traded at this point.
I like Brad Stevens and Missoula and one or two of the Celtics brass going to Jaylen Brown's house and sitting down with him and telling him, this is just business. We tried to make a move. It didn't work out. It doesn't diminish your value on this team. We just felt like in that moment, a move was inevitable, so we tried to make it. It did not work out. We apologize for once again putting your name in trade rumors, but I would like to go into the 2026-2027 season clean slate. Let's try to get back to the finals because that's what you got to do. You got to own it. You got to own the fact that every single time somebody's available,
that was Joe Mazzulla's heartbeat.
Yeah. Even if, like, it has to be sincere, because any relationship can be mended with real honesty. At least it allows both sides to make a decision on what they want to do going.
But he also has to take some. but he also has to take some culpability too. You know what I mean?
What did he do? He didn't say anything bad about Boston. He just said he enjoyed being the man this year.
Well, he's talked about
upset with the journalism, how they cover him.
He's talked about for the last 2 years at least about how unappreciated he feels there. You know,
but that's not his fault. It's not.
It's not. It's not. But then he talked about, this is my favorite
trade deal.
We just gave up a 3-1 lead, and a week later, the same week, this is my favorite year of my career.
Of course, it happens. But once again,
you can't say that.
This is the third time in 4 seasons he's been really linked in trade rumors.
That's why I think you gotta trade him.
How? Okay, let's think about this real quick, and then I want to get. When was the last time the Minnesota Timberwolves in the NBA Finals?
Never
made it. Boston just won. Jaylen Brown was the Eastern Conference MVP and your Finals MVP.
Yeah, so his name shouldn't be anywhere near trades.
But they keep doing it. They did it. They did it the year before. They did it the year that he won because they were trying to move him for KD. They constantly have him in it, and he constantly addresses it. He's not subtle about it. So in turn, don't be subtle. Go out there, play the cards. Play spades, face up, and keep it 100. But like personally, I think Boston, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, supporting cast is still probably, I would give them the edge. I would give them 2. I'm going to leave the Knicks at 1 because they just won a championship and they still have their pieces, and their pieces still going to play the same way that their pieces do. Guys aren't going to go out of their space to do some different shit just because they won a championship.
Back Alvarado earlier as well.
So I think Boston is probably cemented at 2 with the team as currently constructed. And now you got 1-2, still 1 in the Garden.
Maybe because in the other Garden. I mean, maybe because Derek White's name is out there. So we'll just have to see what happens. Then, you talk about romance. I was sitting there this morning reading my little article that I saw, and I was just like, Kawhi to San Antonio or Toronto?
I'm not going to San Antonio or Toronto.
Well, allegedly, those are the only places where he would sign an extension. Because
this is that dry period in sports. They could be talking about the World Cup, but since they cover basketball, they have no idea what's going on with the World Cup. Team
USA lost last night. We could overreact to that.
Yeah. Oh, they played a bunch of subs because they were already through to the.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Overreact. Yeah.
Yeah. So
they'll beat Bosnia 7-0.
Let's think about this. All right, we've seen from an outside looking in, because there's not many people on the inside of Kawhi's circle, even in NBA channels. Not many guys on podcasts have a lot of Kawhi stories. What would make you think that Kawhi will go back to the organization that he felt tried to injure him permanently for his career? One, that's San Antonio.
Are those people still here?
Popovich is still in the building, and I'm pretty sure they don't really get rid of people. And it's the same philosophy, the same playing strategy. It's the same building.
Well, if I was San Antonio, I wouldn't want them anyway. Like I know I was talking
back.
I was talking to Rez yesterday.
Of your young players,
I was talking to Rez yesterday, and he said that Kawhi to San Antonio is a walking ring, and and I'm just like, no, man. Like they were literally on the doorstep right now, and now they have the finals experience that we were banging on them for not having. You know what I mean? And now they just went out and got the goons in the draft, you know what I'm saying, which we'll get to, you know what I'm saying? So,
you can't have 2 guys on pitch counts.
The Spurs ready to go, you know what I'm saying, like as is.
You can't have 2 guys on
but Toronto
in your starting lineup.
Now, let me pivot for a second. So, Toronto is where I thought LaMelo Ball should have got traded to. This is after the fact because I didn't expect LaMelo Ball to be traded. But once he got traded, I was like, where the hell was Toronto? You know what I mean? Because as I look at their roster, right, there are monsters. Scotty Barnes is about 6'10-ish. Ingram 6'11-ish. Trade RJ Barrett. I think that was the thought was RJ Barrett and a couple of picks, and I don't know what else. But Emmanuel Quickly, was injured during the playoffs. Jamal Shedd's a free agent. You pretty much drafted his replacement already. So it's like that just makes sense to me because Toronto is still young outside of Ingram, and I mean he's not old. You know what I mean? So what Toronto needed or needs was that point guard and a replacement for Jakob Poeltl. And Toronto could be cooking with gas. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I think if you're Toronto, if you're Charlotte, you
don't want to run into them.
Like who are you taking?
I would think Barrett and I would think Barrett picks and maybe a Jacoby Walters or something like that.
Why would I take Barrett?
Well, Grady Dick. How about that?
What does Grady Dick fell off? He had opportunities to really excel, but that's what I'm saying. So but
some of these guys, they
why
need
would
to
I take a rebuild?
And then with RJ Barrett, like the thing that he brings you is that one, you probably could flip him, and he's an expiring contract, so his money would be coming off your books after this season anyway.
Yeah, but I'm talking about on the floor. What do you give me? Because I look at it like this: if I trade for you, even if you're on a contract that's expiring or whatever the case may be, if you are talented enough, then I want to, keep you on my team. But what does Naz Reid give you right now? We're not scouting the Timberwolves. Naz Reid come to your team. What do you get? Give me one attribute.
Leadership.
I'm giving you
3-point shooting.
Scoring off the bench, off the bat. I know definitively every single game I get him on the floor with the second unit, especially with the Minnesota. That's what he gets.
And a strong jaw.
What do you get? What do you get with RJ Barrett?
I think like you get a ball handler off the bench. You
get an athlete. You get
you would have to play him. You would have to put him in like a 6-man kind of role and have him be that spark off the bench.
But I have zero idea if he's effective in that. Either way, with Naz Reid, I know I'm getting positivity. So Kawhi, like you talk about LaMelo Ball to Toronto, not seeing it. Kawhi to Toronto, also not seeing it. But I'm not getting text messages from NBA insiders either. I don't see people going back to their ex in these situations. One thing that I heard was that
Detroit and Boston were allegedly interested, but then it came out that San Antonio and Toronto would be the only teams that he would sign an extension with.
There could potentially be an issue with the legality of his current contract.
This is true.
So, trading him or extending him might be on pause pending an investigation of that. Being of that. So, I think the whole thing is just his name kind of rings bells. There hasn't been, and let's keep it real, there hasn't been one piece of evidence to show that adding Kawhi to your team after 2019 has benefited your team long term.
And hey,
7 full seasons.
Interestingly enough,
7 full years.
Interestingly enough, yeah, he's played, more than 65 games or more 2 out of the last 3 years, to include 65 this year. So we'll see what happens.
He was abusing it before. That's the thing. He was abusing his leverage before because
he could.
He was hot because he was hot. It was like Wiz Khalifa when Black and Yellow came out. He can go to any Steelers game, any Pittsburgh Penguins game, any Pirates game, and he'd be like, "Yo, I want to be on TV." But when the
did you say Wiz Khalifa?
I'm talking about when Black and Yellow was hot because he's from Pittsburgh. When it was hot, he could just walk up and be like, "Yo, put me on TV." On Monday Night Football, you can't do that shit now. Come on, dog. That song was 14 years ago. Cut it out. But that's the thing. When Kawhi got to LA and he demanded Paul George, he was like, oh, he's going to bring a chip. When he demanded all these things and they got James Harden and they got all these pieces, and he was like, nothing. Delivered them nothing. King of LA commercials is the only thing he brought to LA.
Yeah. So moving on, we talked about Tim Duncan the other day. We talked about him giving a head coach options on his contract. So now, sounds like we got something brewing potentially down the road. Maybe not right now, but Oregon, or I should say Portland, the city of Portland versus Duncan to get renovations done to the Moda Center. So the Moda Center is one of the oldest arenas in the league. It came around in 1995. It's about time to
That's old?
That's 31 years. Like some of these dudes be getting stadiums I don't know. Like that's old, man. Actually, like the Target Center, right? Minnesota was 91. You know what I mean? But anyway, so as a part of when he brought the team, the state of Oregon committed $365 million. He wants about 600. And that's over a 20-year period. The leadership in Portland is pushing back and saying that ownership should contribute. Rightfully so. So now they've opened up a survey. So it sounds like this might be something that goes, I don't know if it goes to a referendum or, what, but it sounds like this is getting out there to see the temperature of the city. You know what I mean? So I bring that up because, we were talking. I know. But I know.
Inflation is like 3.5%. Gas is high. Prices are high. Rent is crazy. You need to make something like $80,000 right now to afford a 2-bedroom apartment by yourself on average across the United States. And now you got a billionaire who won't sell out $1 million for T-shirts and the stadium and travel for players and making people check out the game early. Gonna come to me talk about you want $300 more million on the 325 we already committed. No.
Yeah, so I bring that up. Well, no. So I was going to say I bring that up because we were just talking about the Chicago Bears a couple of months ago. Now this ain't there yet. You know what I mean? But keep this up for a couple of more years, and we might be talking about this. So I saw somebody suggest, this was just a regular content creator, that Adam Silver might have to step in at some point and make this dude sell the team. So looking down the road, forecasting.
I was thinking that the other day. Like he's
all right, tell me more.
Ride. I thought he was right. I think he's doing what he's doing to ride it out long enough for the TV contracts, cable contracts, the CBA, the FBLA, the NSA, the NWA, all these things are coming to play so he can get more money and then sell the team. Because if you really cared about your team, you would want a coach. You and I do this podcast. We pay StreamYard to stream on this every single month. It's recurring. We just pay for it. If I was like, oh, yeah, don't use the StreamYard link. I found another one that's a little cheaper. And then like every month, we just bouncing around. It's like, that's not consistent. We're not going to give you a good product. But in order to give a good product, you got to be willing to put money into that, into the background of that product. He doesn't care. And if you're wanting more money, I'm like, I saw a video of Jay-Z walking through like having like a daily, like a morning walk with like 6 or 7 billionaires. They were just kind of having that little walk with their Hokas on or whatever. He probably was wearing Pumas. It's like, yo, if you're a billionaire, you probably dine, vacation, converse, shop, make deals with other billionaires. If you need another $300 million to get a bigger arena, cut these other guys in. Like, yo, go to your private equity firm of your friend who's a billionaire and say, yo, run me 300 M's so I can boost the stadium. that'll give you in line with the people of the city, because now the people of the city will come pay whatever it is because they know you got the money from somewhere else. But you're so greedy and so selfish because you've earned this amassed this type of money that you don't even think of how do I look out for the common man because it doesn't resonate with you at all.
So and it don't help that he just got another Stanley Cup.
So it's like you let this person's ego and their arrogance kind of play out. Don't give him anything. Shout out to the people of Chicago. Like, listen, we're not footing the bill for y'all. Y'all get way too much money. We see the deals. It's not like the money's secret. Like Kanye West, I don't know how much money he has. He doesn't sign a contract that gets announced publicly. We can speculate how much he has, whatever. But I know for a fact what Dame Lillard's contract is. I know what the Dallas Cowboys are worth. I know what the Knicks are publicly traded. They're a publicly traded commodity. You can buy stock in the Knicks. We all know this information. So if I know you're worth $4 billion, you have to have a few friends that are also worth a few $1 billion each. And all you need is one or two of them to break you off $150 million each.
Could you imagine if after all this and getting them back, could you imagine if he went and tried or succeeded in trying to get Jaylen Brown and he put Dame in the deal after they just got him back?
The thing about it, he probably don't even know who Dame is. He probably has no idea how important it was that he could have had Dame come out to the floor banging on a drum with everybody wearing T-shirts that said Dame time. He has no idea. He didn't care.
I hate that my brain went there, but it is what it is. So the NBA draft has come and gone. Obviously there's winners, there's losers, but Mr. Logical, did anything in particular stand out about the draft for you?
Nope.
Not even nothing. Not even one thing.
Nothing. Not one thing.
You ain't like boozers. People gonna look back in 10 years and wonder why I didn't go number one.
He said that?
Yeah.
Nah, people will look at it in 5 years and be like, hey, you played a lot like Jahlil Okafor.
So I was wondering.
I'm always very. I don't want to be dismissive of someone who just earned an opportunity because I understand it takes a lot of hard work to get that far. But the NBA draft as a showcase has lost its luster because it's like, bro, these guys aren't better than the guys in the league. I don't think AJ DeBonce is going to come in and really take anyone out of the top 15 and cement himself in that. It's no slight to him. I just don't think the product's the same. I don't think the players are the same. I don't think the output's the same. I just feel like it was a lot of players. You talk about your guy, what's his name, Vassar?
Yeah. He didn't go until 51 or 52?
He could have gone back to college and got $4 million, $5 million. And you're going to get way more of that.
Hell, the Clippers drafted a dude that's going to be in college this year.
You got guys like Dominican LeBron who came out saying, normally the Kyrie guy or he doesn't like Michigan State. And it's like, you weren't really a top 11 pick. I didn't see top 11 pick in that national championship game. I know he gutted it out. I know he had an injury and he gutted it out, so I respect that. But I don't see anything that he did that really translated to the NBA other than his size.
I think his defense translates.
At 11?
No.
Your defense translates at 34, 37.
But I think that it's more or less
it should be called the role player draft because after 4 or 5, these guys are strictly role players. I'm not shitting on them, but it's like
I got some players late that I think could be okay.
We talking about the San Antonio guys and how they're drafting these two bigs that are going to play alongside and let Wemby play the 3 that he really wants to play. But it's like that's because they're just tall. And the same thing with like Ade and Chet and SGA. It's like, y'all acting like Chet dominates. Like we see Chet play. He gets knocked around all the time, just like Wemby. So it's like You are telling me they're getting another guy who can get pushed around? Cool. But it's like I think people are enamored. Like, who won the draft? Chicago Bulls won. I'm like, yeah, but the Bulls put out terrible fucking teams every single year because they don't have real dogs. These guys aren't dogs. They're just a bunch of role players who happen to be tall. Where's Alex Sarr? Where's Ricochet? Where's Scoot Henderson? Where's Dillingham? Where's Reed Shepard? Where's all these guys that were in the top 5 in the last 3 or 4 years? Zero impact. No commercials. No shoe deals. No billboards. No marquee. No one's buying their jerseys to go to games. That's the product you're getting out of college basketball right now. The draft is not worth 2 nights.
Well, see, and that's the thing, right? Because in the NFL, the draft is, even though basketball is better at, I added a player and now our team is different. In the NFL, generally, you're adding finished products that should hit the ground running. Like last year, we thought Ashton Genty, not that he was going to take over the league or anything, but fans around the country, they, thought like, hey, this guy's NFL ready. He's going to Jeremiah Love. We were talking about him in this year's draft. Yeah. This guy's ready to hit the ground running, usually with quarterbacks, Jaden Daniels, people like that. So when you look at the NBA draft, a lot of these guys are getting drafted on what I think you could be in 3 to 5 years. Because now, if you're over the age of 21, it's like, I don't want nothing to do with that. He's already old. He's already got his habits. He's already who he is. Mike Tomlin, saying I've run 2 coaching. So when I look at the draft, right, everything is potential. So AJ Jabancha, for example, I talked about him a couple of weeks ago, and I think that if he hits where he could hit, he could be that fusion of a Tatum and Brown. Like he could be that. This is what they would look like if they were combined. But that's still 4 years away potentially. You know what I mean? Then you got, like he might be good, but to get to that point, you know what I mean? Then you got Darren Peterson. And when you look at a guy like Darren Peterson going to Utah, I like the fit. He fits in there. But the problem is you just drafted Ace Bailey last year. So, you got to get him acclimated. And they're talking about potentially making him the 6th man now. You know what I mean? You got Keontae George.
Do you have the right coach? I saw a video of him cussing these guys out. I'm like, these are grown men still.
Well, I don't know.
These are still grown men. Like it was a little like, listen, this is not a high school basketball team. Like, do you have the right coach? Do you have the right temperament to be a coach of a team
without JJ Redick's cachet, right?
I don't think JJ Redick's the right coach. I don't think he's taking enough lumps. I think you gotta fall down a little bit. Like you gotta get rejected a few times in high school before you take the homecoming queen to prom. Like you don't just go to, I didn't talk to any girls all year, and all of a sudden May comes around. You ask the homecoming queen to prom that's coming up, and you just get it. Like,
well, I think that when we look at these coaches, sometimes we forget that coaches aren't born overnight either. You know what I mean? Like they're learning lessons as they go, just the same way the Spurs players were. Mitch Johnson was learning on the fly too. So, like, I think Will Hardy's a good coach. It's only his 2nd year as a head coach. This will be year 3. So he'll get there, I think.
He'll make it because Utah leadership is
and he came in from Boston, so like Danny Ainge has history with him, so there's something there. But they're talking about making Ace Bailey the 6th man. Keontae George is going to be in a contract year, trying to get an extension. So if you're looking at Darren Peterson,
if you're not trying to take one of these Toyotas from Stockton Malone, then take him sit his ass up. They're not paying him.
So what are you bringing in, as Darren Peterson? Because now we got all these people that we got to share the ball with. And you got the old guard, people like Markkanen on big contracts. Triple J's on a big contract. Not that Triple J is necessarily the offensive, savant, if you will. But these are guys that make enough money that they have to get touches.
Yeah, you got to determine what your style is and how these first you got to determine what the style you want to play. Do I have the bodies to play that style? And if I do, how do I get them to buy into the style that I want to play?
And that's why I think Boozer's.
If I don't have the bodies, then how do I adapt? How do I adapt my style to fit the players? And
that's why I think Boozer's in the best situation so far because Memphis is searching for an identity. The Wizards, I think they kind of know where they want to go, and they're giving AJ the keys on some, hey, work with Trey, and you're going to be our duo, whatever. Like, I think that Utah is still trying to figure out all those pieces because they got to figure out what they're going to do with Walker Kessler too. But if
Trey and AJ, is that like Memphis? Is that like Kyrie and like I'm trying to get like a comp to where like that works because AJ was used to having the ball in his hand at BYU because he was doing like that hop, pick up, dribble.
It's probably more. It's probably more, and obviously Trey is not LaMelo size, but it's probably like LaMelo, Brandon Miller.
Okay,
it's probably something like that.
I'm trying to get a visual on like how does AJ get his 20 as a rookie? 22.
Well, but that's where the Anthony Davis part comes in because he's not going to get that if Anthony Davis is there.
I think he'd get 22 if he's there.
You think so?
Yeah,
because I think Anthony Davis is probably going to average 19 or 20 if he's there. Trey's going to average something between 18 and 22.
I think he could get to 20 if AD is there because when a team goes small and you put AD at the 5, which is technically probably your version of small if you're Washington, how big is a guy guarding AJ do you have on your team? Like, do you have a spare 6'6" guy that can guard the wing and a 6'8" and 6'9" guy that can guard AD? And you're in that kind of a lineup. Most teams really don't. Because even if you think about San Antonio, they didn't have a guy 6'9" plus on the floor for defensive reasons in the last couple of rounds of the playoffs.
Right. Well, they will now because they went and got Terrence Reed, and
they went and got that guy, yeah. So
but Boozer, he's coming in depending on what they do with Ja. Sounds like they're trying to move him, but not much interest right now. But Bane's gone. Coward, is the rookie from last year.
That Ja Morant relationship in Memphis?
I don't think so. Because they did the whole like, I'm gonna sit you out the rest of the year thing. You know what I mean? Like,
was he healthy?
I think he was injured. I think he was injured at a point, but I think eventually it was like, yeah, like we're done here. Because it sounds like him and the coach have like had some things too. But Boozer gets a chance to kind of grow, if you will, right away because he's going to be expected, at the very least, to be maybe a main ball handler, depending on what happens with Ja. At least not ball handler like he's crossing people over, but initiating certain points of the offense, kicking it out to the open guy on the perimeter while being able to work the middle, if you will, if Edie isn't on the floor. So he has a possibility there. I don't like the Caleb Wilson pick, at all. Like, I'm just not a fan of Caleb Wilson, especially when you follow that up with Dalen Swain later, who I do like, but I don't like both of them. You know what I mean? And then you went out and got Nick Claxton as well. Like, that's a whole lot of non-shooting on your team in a league where everybody shoots the ball, especially like when you're looking at it from the wing / big man standpoint, because then you got Jalen Smith, who's going to be coming off the bench, and he can provide that at 6'10". But
in Chicago,
yeah, you know what I mean. If you were going to get Swain, you don't need Wilson, and if you were going to get Wilson, you don't need Swain.
Well, we talk about imitation's greatest form of flattery, and I think it's a bad starting point to compare your team and try to fill it out using the current NBA champion, world champions of the world, New York Knicks. But I think the Knicks didn't have a lot of guys in their starting lineup that hung out around the 3-point line. Josh Hart was an opportunistic 3-point shooter. I think Cat is a good shooter, but I think a lot of he attacked the rim a lot. Jalen Brunson is playmaker.
OG and Bridges were in those corners to give Brunson his ISO and to give Cat. I mean, not that they were like shooting 43s a game or
shooting from there. They were standing. They started their offensive action from the corners. So it's like if you give me the space, maybe I'll let it off. And we remember a few of those dunks that OG had on Wemby where he like closed out too hard and still the paint was an option. So if you're looking at, you said Swain and Caleb Wilson, if they're looking like, yo, let's get back to the midi, let's get the MIT guys out of the box.
They can't do that.
Let's get the Boston Tech guys out of our player analytics.
And then they drafted Noah Asenge last year. What do you do with him?
How do we get buckets? How do we efficiently get buckets? Do we have a guy that can shoot 55 to 60% anywhere near the rim? How do we make that happen? Because I think people have been living by the 3 and dying by the 3 and starting to realize, like, I don't need a guy like Brook Lopez shooting 6 threes a game.
But then you got Giddey as your point guard. He can't shoot either. So I'm not saying that you need Reggie Miller or you need to play like the Warriors. I'm just saying, like, you have to have at least a threat, that you can hit a shot every so often. You definitely do.
I don't think you, because the Spurs didn't shoot well from 3. Champagnie was just 3-point shooter, if you think about it.
Well, the Spurs have, like you said, I don't want to compare people to the teams that made the finals, but they got a 7'5" dude that could cross you up and pull up. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, but they had opportunistic 3-point shooters. It wasn't like guys really out there. Like Vassell's not a shooter.
But that's what I'm saying. Chicago doesn't even have that. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that you have to spread it all out in jack threes. I'm just saying that somebody should be able to knock down a damn shot.
Somebody got to go 37 to 39% from 3.
Yeah, because I mean, unless they bring Colin Sexton back, but you know what I mean. But that's probably more like your 6th man. So yeah. We'll see. But anyway, so then as we went through the draft, OKC was they went and got the coach's son, Bennett Sturts, after a bunch of trades that left everybody confused because everybody was still wearing the original hats and everything. Yep. But
obviously, it was pissing me off because the graphic isn't that hard to change. And then Adam Silver was saying the other team, just bring out the other hat and say the other team, change the graphic. But my bad.
So they went and got Sturts, who it's one of those things. I'm not a fan of Bennett Sturts. But this is what I'm a fan of. OKC teams like that, they address whatever flaws or shortcomings they had the season before. So when J-Dub got hurt, AJ Mitchell got hurt, that left SGA on the island as the de facto point guard a lot of the rest of the series. So what do? You go get you another ball handler that can shoot 38, 39% from 3. Don't got to shoot a lot. He's a coach's son. They're already a team that doesn't necessarily turn the ball over a lot. So he has a certain discipline that he's going to bring to that offense. I don't expect him to start, but he's another guy that can buy you a few minutes by playing hard.
That's what McCain does. But he just...
Well, McCain's can light it up, though.
Yeah, when Plumlee punched him in his kidneys, he faltered after that. Really?
Yeah, every time he stepped on the court after that, he was like...
After that, he was skittish.
You know what I mean? It's so you got that going on, right? And then, so OKC did that. And but Mr. Logical, surprisingly enough, if we were doing winners and losers, I really like what the Kings did. They went and got the star They went and got Darius Acuff. You know what I mean?
Did you see the Scalabrine clip? He was talking about Alex Caravan.
Yeah.
He was like, "That's a great pickup for Cleveland." I coached that guy. He was at my camp. Yada yada. He did a great job. Another guy was like, "Yeah, he got traded to Sacramento." He goes, "Ooh,
yeah,
that's tough."
But that's what I like.
He said, "Ooh, that's tough."
Yeah, but that's what I like though. Like they got their point guard of the future. You know, who a lot of people consider the best point guard in this draft. Alex Caravan is a big shot taker, big shot maker, as they say. National champion 2 times over in college. They went and got Emmanuel Sharp, who was one of my sleepers, to defend the perimeter, depending on when he's on the floor and all that, helps Acuff out a little bit by taking over that matchup that Acuff can't defend. And, oh, by the way, he's probably going to be a 37, 38% three-point shooter as well. So once they get this, DeRozan thing over with, maybe move DeMontes. Like, I think the Kings are – I ain't going to say they're headed in the right direction because they are the Kings, but I think they did the right things in this draft. I'll put it like that. The Hornets, I like what they did. I talked about that already. The Lakers, I ain't going to say too much about it because everybody's buzzing about it, but Cameron Carr, once LeBron is gone and they start trying to develop rookies and stuff, they got a good one. They got a real good one. One of the best players in the draft, potentially. The Hawks. I'm not necessarily the biggest Kingston Flemings fan from the standpoint of thinking that he's going to be a star or something like that. But they got their point guard of the future, basically. He's another defender. So, like, Atlanta might legit be a top 3 defense in the league this year if he can maintain what he was doing. And then you got Visar, who they got way later than I thought he would go, but they addressed their size issue to some degree. Now we got to see free agency get another, big man or at least a bigger forward or whatever. But Atlanta might be in a good spot because remember, they were the only team that took 2 games off the Knicks in this playoffs, by the way.
Yeah.
The Spurs, right?
You had them beating the Knicks.
I did have them beating the Knicks. And, I mean, C.J. McCollum tried his damnedest. Said Jalen Johnson just didn't come with him. It was first time in the playoffs. It happens. But Detroit, I like the Okori pickup. He was one of my sleepers. 23 and a half points a game as a freshman. Just another guy that can take some pressure off of Cade Cunningham, even if it's just for now dribbling the ball, because obviously we're not going to expect rookies that's selected this late in the after the lottery to come in and hey, go out there and average 17 or something like that. But he gives Detroit options. He gives them another ball handler so Cade can do some off the ball work. He gives them a scorer. When Cade's on the bench. Once he develops. So. And they brought in Isaiah Joe. So that's your bench backcourt right there. You're already kind of set. They were missing these options because it was pretty much Cade take us to the promised land because Jaylen wasn't going to do shit.
He was not playing very well against Cleveland. It was like, it was very strange.
He didn't play that well against Orlando.
Yeah, well, the team didn't play that well against Orlando. Orlando should have closed him out. It's crazy to think like how the ebbs and flows of the first 24 minutes versus the second 24 minutes in that NBA game went. But Detroit is – I don't think they're going to pull a Charlotte because I think they really like Cade Cunningham. I think his reliability.
Oh, no, they didn't. No, he's a Piston.
They're not going to trade him abruptly or anything like that.
Right.
I just feel like they're going to be close for the next couple of years. And they're going to lock themselves into a couple of bad deals. And then in about 2028, they're going to be like, you know what? We probably shouldn't have signed this deal. Or 2029.
Yeah, I think if I'm them.
We probably shouldn't have given him 260, something like that.
I think if I'm them, I'm trying to find somebody that wants Ron Holland. I like Ron Holland, but you can't have that many chefs in the kitchen, you know what I mean? Because he's not even getting the minutes that he deserves right now anyway. And you got a Sar who you hope works on that jumper at some point, but you're going to keep him around just for the defense and, just for the
He's
the
got to
energy.
be able to figure that out, right?
You would think
Like,
so.
Get with the lethal shooter. There's so many shooting coaches, and there's so many gyms. You could build a hoop in your backyard and just work on the jump shot. Like, they shouldn't be leaving you open in the playoffs.
Yeah.
When you are as dynamic as you are defensively.
Yeah, and then you
NBA player.
Yeah, and then you got the other side. So if you talk about winners, you got to talk about losers, right? So Orlando, I hate to call them a loser because they only had one pick.
Okay,
they just made the wrong pick. So they went and got Isaiah Nelson out of USF, who is a banger, on the boards and all that, but he's legit probably 3 years away from contributing. Now, granted they got him in the second round, but for a team that needs playmaking, ball handling, and a big man, or somebody down low, they could have got B-Sar. You know what I mean? Or like obviously we got free agency, so I don't want to overreact, but I just feel like they could have did something better. The Denver Nuggets, right?
Okay.
My Nuggets. They confused me. Because I was looking at them. And I said, hey, you got to get you a shooter. You got to get you, a defender. So maybe half of that. They got Trevon Brazile out of Arkansas, who outside of defense is probably going to be a project in the rawest order. The reason that I have a problem with that is because with their next pick, they went and got Bryce Hopkins, who's had 2 knee injuries in college. And then on top of that, you still got to get Deron Holmes, who they drafted 2 years ago, acclimated because he came into the league with an ACL. So you're already not playing the young guys to begin with. But now you're drafting young guys that you're probably not going to play anyway. And if you lose Peyton Watson, you know what I mean, then you really up shit's creek to some degree. So that's just my thought.
Playing their young guys. So many NBA teams are just holding on to their old guys, overpaying their current role players, or recycling guys from other teams. The fact that there's conversations about moving AD from the Wizards and you giving up capital and then paying him to come to your team. None of these, I'm gonna say none. I don't like speaking of absolutes. Very few of these NBA teams are actually trying to start from a real starting point. They're all trying to start at the 150-meter mark of a 400-meter race. It's like, you might have to start from the starting blocks. Build your team, trust your coaching, and make it work. Play the young guy. Because eventually, like I said, my criticism is these guys aren't dogs. They're not like grinders. Seems a lot of guys that play a lot of finesse basketball, very cute. Not a lot of guys who give you that grittiness of a Draymond Green or even a Kawhi or like a Tyrese Maxey, an undersized guy that just challenges the bigs at the rim. It's a mindset that I feel like a lot of these players don't come into the league with. But if you sit them on the bench for 2-3 years, shots fired. If you sit them on the bench for 2 or 3 years and don't give them an opportunity, it's so what are we gonna do? And that's I think that's the conundrum a lot of teams are in. It's you're moving all these pieces around. It's get these guys you drafted onto the floor and see what works before you end up firing the coach, firing the GM, and trying to move stadiums. Play the guys you drafted.
The Pacers went out and got the all-time assist leader, Braden Smith. I don't know why. Halliburton's coming back this year, and you're talking about a 5'10" point guard that is just going to, legit 5'10", not even, hey, they listed him at 6 feet and he might be 5'10". No, he's listed at 5'10" already. You know what I mean? So then, of course, Mr. Logical, I didn't want to bring them up. I didn't. The Brooklyn Nets.
Yeah, they did nothing. No trigger.
Well, I do like the Michael Brown pick. I know Twitter and everybody else has been going nuts because they could have had Acuff instead. You know what I mean? But I talked about this right before the draft where I felt Brooklyn had to draft one of those two from the New York City star power. Give me a reason to watch you. Acuff, is obviously the one that people feel are ready right now. But Michael Brown, can step out. He can get above the rim. So I was saying that his style of play, will make Brooklyn entertaining to some degree. Now, the rest of the draft, though, that Brooklyn had, Joshua Jefferson, you know what I mean? Like, they went and asked him, who do you compare yourself to? And this man named like 6 different people that were all like solid players. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, most people are like, I mean, I can't shoot like Steph, but that's who I patterned my game after. My man is like,
yeah, that's cap. I like his honesty.
No, fuck all that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, Brooklyn don't need a Draymond Green right now. You know what I mean?
They definitely need a Draymond Green. That's probably
they don't need a Draymond
kind of player.
Well, they got that with Julius Randle to some degree already.
No, hell no. Julius Randle was Julius Randle. Julius Randle thinks he's James Harden because they're both left-handed. He does nothing that Draymond Green gives you. He will not. Julius Randle will not get the ball at the top of the key and fake passes and then set a little brush screen and a little bounce pass so you get an open 3. He will not do that. He will have you fake the screen so you can try to dribble and get his own shot off.
Well, I mean, like, if he was
Michael Carter, him and what's the boy name that can't stop talking?
Michael Porter.
Michael Porter Jr. The two of them they're probably the worst duo based off of like who's gonna make the other one better. I think it could be a 0-sum game with those two. Like, I think if Julius Randle's at the top of the key and Michael Porter Jr. gets the ball on the wing, he's not swayed to him. And if the ball was coming from Julius Randle to Michael Porter's direction, he's not getting the ball either. So the two of them are going to watch both of them shoot 3-point shots and not give each other the ball.
I don't think you draft.
Not in a negative way. I just think it's like that's the way it goes.
I don't think you draft Kyle Anderson. Basically, we talked about that. Like, slow-mo. I don't think you draft. I mean, granted, it was the back of the first round, but with a team like Brooklyn that needs like anything they can get their hands on, you know what I mean?
Like, you got to see if it works. Like, it's like with football, we could kind of see if you have too many corners, you have too many wide receivers, you have too many linebackers in the draft. But with football, I've been using this phrase, these guys are dogs. In football, you gotta scrap every single play. You gotta fight every single play to make an impact. Because if you're getting blocked, then you're a non-factor in the play. Like, you're just out of the way. So you have to fight up that block. So even if you aren't even close to the play, you're fighting with the dude blocking you to try to get into the play. With basketball, you can just be a non-factor because, like, you can't shoot, so they put you on the bench. They don't need you. They can run 7 guys. In NFL, you got to rotate guys. You got to have a punt unit, kickoff unit, so guys get an opportunity to really show their skills. In the NBA, they don't really get that opportunity. But with Brooklyn, that's the space where you should get that opportunity just because they only have a couple of veterans. The only two I can think off the top of my head are Julius Randle and Michael Porter Jr. that just got there. The rest of these guys are very young.
Yeah, so I like the backcourt. Like I said, I like Michael Brown. I wasn't big on Yegor last year, but he played pretty decently in his limited time. And then, the last pick that they made, Tyler Bilodeau, is kind of like he's in that in-between phase. Is he a Dean Wade or is he a Cam Johnson? You know what I mean? Like, and so it's just I don't know. Like, as long as
you get knocked down to 3 and play a little bit of defense.
Like, I still don't know if I know the direction that they're aiming for. You know what I mean? Like, they're just doing things. They're just
adding quality basketball.
They're putting rosters together so that they can open the arena.
Yeah. They need to have they need to have a 5-man starting lineup and realistically at least 3 bench players. in order to survive the season. So I think that's what they're doing.
Yeah, the Mavs did a.
That's what happens when you're in that position as a team.
The Mavs did a lot of confusing things to me too. The only thing that saves them is because I had to train my brain to remember that Masai Ujiri is back in charge. So, he did what he does for more or less. He did what he does. I do, I like Morez Johnson as a player, but I don't know if they needed him at number 9. They went and got Sergio De La Rera from Spain, who a lot of the scouts like. He was on one of the best teams in the EuroLeague. So he comes over with that experience. So maybe that can, help out a little bit, help his transition, if you will. But then, they got Toby Lawal from Virginia Tech, who is an athlete, but I don't know what else he offers you. And then I don't even know if this shooting guard from Russia is going to play at all, or if he's going to be one of those guys that they hold the rights to and then we never see him again.
Sits in the league, sits overseas forever.
Yeah. Then Golden State, I like the moves that they made as far as looking at it from like a defensive standpoint. Like Jones out of Florida State, like he's that dog that you're talking about. I just don't know if the offensive game is going to translate over, but he's one of those guys that you want to have on your team. Houston, I was a little confused with them. They made the right move as far as the type of player that they got. I just don't know if they got the right one. Now, granted, this guy, Bruce Thornton, is the all-time leading scorer in Ohio State basketball history. So he's got that going for him. You got Van Vliet acclimating back into the lineup. You got Reed Shepherd already, that's small and, a shooter or whatever you want to call it. So you just drafted a stocky dude that does – yeah, you drafted a stocky dude that does what they do. So, maybe the body makes a difference. Maybe that's the difference in that scenario. What? But then you got the Clippers. I like what the Clippers did. Not the biggest wobbler guy, but I think he'll be solid, down the road. They got my sleeper, Baba Miller, out of Cincinnati. So, I like that for future purposes. Nick Martinelli started getting a little hype as we got towards the draft. He's not athletic. He doesn't have an athletic bone in his body. But then we got the guy that they drafted that's at Auburn. He was old enough that he had to be in the draft, I guess, but he didn't actually declare.
Athletic bone in his body.
Yeah, he doesn't have an athletic bone in his body, man. Not even a little bit. But so I was just wondering about that. Memphis, we were talking about Kareem Lopez. You know what I mean? And it's like, usually when you watch these highlights of the overseas guys that you don't know, like you talked about Luka, and when I was watching him, I was like, man, this looked like Canelo just sparring against somebody that has no business sparring with Canelo. Yeah. So I don't know if
guys who like to play basketball just or in a league.
So I don't know if that means that he's that good compared to the competition. But I'm thinking that he's going to be a few years, Then they drafted Richie Saunders out of BYU, who's coming off the ACL. So, who knows if he'll play next year. Milwaukee, I said, Nate Ament, right? They went and got Braden Berries.
Milwaukee got you picked.
Yeah, and they went and got Braden Berries, what I mean, as they say, because now I got to sound like a sports guy, right? He probably has the highest floor in the draft. I've always wanted to say that, but it applies to him. So he could be one of those guys that, that is a gem. Isaiah Evans to Minnesota, I like a lot. They need more shooting. The Knicks got some good players. You know what I mean? Tyler Nickel from Vanderbilt. That guy can shoot the lights out. You know what I mean? And, that could be at some point whenever they move off of OG or Mikal 2 or 3 years from now.
65% of these dudes are going straight to the G League.
Yep, including my guy Otega Oweh from Kentucky, who I was shocked that he got drafted. He got drafted at 41, and he got drafted to OKC. He got drafted to OKC. So thank you. So you can't complain about that. You know what I mean? But Koa peaked to Phoenix.
And then trade like he was supposed to go to the Lakers, right? And they traded him.
Yeah. And then the Spurs, real quick, I guess I'll finish up with them. The Spurs, we talked about the big men, Jaden Quaintance, Terrence Reed, but they went and got Jacoby Gillespie. You know what I mean? So we were just talking about it, right? The Spurs made the finals without these 3-point shooters that everybody's looking for and all that kind of stuff like that. Well, the Spurs just went and got one. Gillespie's going to come in the league, and if he gets the minutes, he's probably going to be the best shooter on the team unless they bring Champagnie back. And even, he's sometimey, so he still might be the best shooter on the team. So all in all, deep NBA draft. Didn't have the luster that I thought it was going to have, like too many trades that didn't involve actual players that are in the league right now. It was just a whole bunch of movement that confused the hell out of everybody because I was like, why did Memphis take Bennett's thirds? Oh, shit, he's in OKC. So it is what it is.
Yeah, the NBA trade model, I'm just like, oh, this is just – I get it. Unfortunately – ooh, that was aggressive.
I tried to hit mute.
Unfortunately, I still have a lot of faith in a lot of these guys seeing making an impact. I mean, granted, I think you guys in the top 5, maybe extending out to 8 might get an opportunity. I think the guys in the top 5 can get a consistent opportunity. I just don't have any faith in the NBA development of getting young players to the best teams. We talk about how the tanking rules and how I disagree with them. So hopefully these guys at the top of this draft, because as far as the conversation surrounding this draft, this was considered one of the deeper drafts. With pretty much guys 1 through 6, 1 through 8, give or take, based on your college, basketball expertise. I just want these guys get this opportunity to actually, go out there and shine, because the old guard they got to hang it up. Those Adidas, Nikes, and Ling Ling basketball shoes have to get hung up. They have to do the farewell. They got to put the numbers in the rafters, and you're going to need a new wave of players that are really just ready to step in and, and lace those shoes up and take it forward. So I would go back to the draft being one night. It's not enough. I'm trying to, what's the word I'm want to look for? Like intrigue or mystique or the player cachet for it to be stretched as far as it is.
Mm-hmm.
I would do one night, 3 hours, give him 3 minutes in the first round because you're already worked out, he's working out. And if you're pick 14 and your guy hasn't gone yet, if you have 3 minutes, you should be ready to go. I mean,
mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah,
I would get rid of the whole spectacle of it and just go back to just keep it simple basketball, get these guys in the gym, get rid of the old guard, bring in the new guard, put them in commercials off the bat. If you get drafted in the top 10, give them a national watch or AT&T, T-Mobile, something. Get their faces out there. Get them out there with their jersey. Maybe an old head teammate. Do something. They're worried about spreading the game. They trying to spread it to places that half of America can't go to because they don't have passports. So it doesn't make any sense. Spread it around here. Spread it on the phone. Spread it on TV.
And then final note. If anybody ever asks you again, does anybody know any 55th pick besides Bronny James? You tell them Aaron Wiggins and Nick Martinelli. You know what I'm saying? Show your basketball knowledge. You know what I'm saying? But he is the one and only world famous, world renowned cool, calm, and collected unless we are talking about LeBron. You know what I'm saying? Born in Texas, raised in VA, representing New Jerusalem, said that Michael Brown still ain't good enough for him to come over the bridge to watch the Nets. He is Mr. Logical.
A lot of toes.
Don't
A lot of toes.
Don't bring feelings to a fat fight. Don't bring those feelings to fat fights.
Don't do it.
And down here in the Alamo, it's your unorthodox statistician going left so much you was southpaw, about to go chase a little girl and make her stop singing Liv Morgan songs. You know, Jersey in the house. You know what I mean? I am 2-5. When we come back on Tuesday, free agency will be underway. We'll even have some deals probably, I'm guessing, Sunday night. We'll start to hear, maybe Saturday, maybe tomorrow. We'll start to hear a few things slip through the cracks. But
KD back to Golden State. Book it. I'm kidding.
Well, there was something I saw today that they might be looking to move off of Jimmy Butler. So, you know what I mean?
I don't blame him.
So we'll see. But this is Sports Reports as ordered. You know what I'm saying? We love y'all. Like, review, subscribe, share, rate, do all the free things, do all the good things. Liquid Death is in hand. We are everywhere that you get your podcast. Say less, say more. Check us out. We are out.
Sports reports, no gimmicks, no clowns. 2-5, Mr. Logical, we run this town. Real talk only, no chasing, no doubt. From the east to the west, it's the order we shout. Mic check, lights flash, game time, stay ready. 2 vets in the zone, keep the pressure real heavy. Big hits, big plays, yeah, we breaking it down. Truth rings in your speakers, every word is the crown. From the north side hustle to that southern flame. Midwest grind, west coast of the game. Sports talk kings, yeah, we wear that crown. Turn it up, let them know it's about to go down. Sports reports, no gimmicks, no clowns. 2-5.